Hi everyone and welcome to Club 6 episode 5 of Rolling in the Isles, an FM22 British Isles Journeyman series with me, the United City FM. Welcome along. So, all change here at Arsenal. We are approaching the very end of our first January transfer window. I've brought a few players in, let a few players go. We've also changed the tactical system as well in how we play. Let's go check it all out. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a long ride, this one. I hope it won't be too long a video, but there's lots to get through and lots of information potentially to give you. So what we can tell you so far is that January has been a mixed bag again. We got through in the FA Cup against a lower league side in Walsall, which is fine. We also beat Brighton in the last game that we've played, but we also lost 2 matches in January, one to Aston Villa, one to Leicester, both 1-0 apiece away from home in the first one against Villa and at home against Leicester. So it's been a mixed bag again. And it was those 2 matches that, one, made me decide to make some transfer changes because I wasn't sure what I was going to do in the January window. And 2, there's been a tactical tweak as well for the game against Brighton, which we did get the win in. So let's first off go into the transfers and see what we did. So basically what we did do in the January transfer window is that we got rid of a couple of aging players and a couple of players that were unhappy because they weren't getting the game time that we're looking for. So the 4 players specifically that we got out, Damsgaard did okay for me on the right and the left-hand side of midfield, can play on both, but wasn't setting the world alight. And at the age of 32, I felt it was necessary to move him on and refresh that position. So he's moved on, and we got £21 million for a 32-year-old. So that's not too bad. Carlos, one of my central midfielders. I had a wealth of people in that midfield area. You remember we bought Zupay in, and he was an additional player on top of what we had also. So it just meant that there was a little bit of a surplus of requirements here. And Carlos wasn't getting the game time, wasn't particularly happy with that. So I decided to let him go as well. And we got 20 million for him from Atalanta. Lazio bought a second of our players, having already bought Damsgaard, and they bought Jimenez. Jimenez is my rotating option at right fullback. And again, just wasn't getting the game time. Didn't think it was necessary to keep him, and also there was potential to try and find a way to bring more English talent into the squad. So that was the other thought I had there. And then finally, little bit surprising, but kind of only sort of, in that Tierney has left the club. I decided that at 35 years old, even though when I put him out there and tried to see who was potentially interested in, lots of the big clubs were, to my mind, it's the right moment to move him on at 35 years old. He's been a really good servant to the club. Wasn't doing brilliantly well for me. And it's just part of my role now, I think, to refresh this club a little bit. And there's more to show you of that in a slightly different way in a moment or two. But Tierney leaves the club. So those were the main ones. I also let a youngster go who hadn't made my first team squad so far this season, 18-year-old Salas. Just, I thought his his physicals weren't up to what I was looking for primarily. And as an attacking quality midfield player, didn't have the vision, didn't have the passing, had a long shot on him, wasn't quite enough. So I decided to move him on. So that still means that you can see we've made £359 million this season with me in charge, and we've only spent 341. I say only. We have made a profit on that this season, so we are doing pretty well financially just at the moment. So 4 players plus a youngster go out, and 3 players come in. First one is this guy, Adam Turner. As I was saying, English opportunity to get more English talent into the first team squad. He's not particularly an upgrade on what we had, but the other guy, Jimenez, was unhappy. So it was a good chance to get him out and bring a guy in that's been playing a bit previously, I think, at Southampton, but is English and will help with that quota as the Brexit rules have an impact on the way that we do things. And he's okay. 13s, 14s in some of the areas that we need. He's got reasonable attributes and will be a reasonably good rotating option for me. I'm not expecting him to set the world alight. I'm just expecting him to be okay. and I think he will be. So that's the first one that comes in. The second one, this guy could really do something for me, I think. Jose Pacheco. And he comes in and plays down the right-hand side as a Damsgaard replacement. At 25 years old, Chilean international, 68 caps for them. I think this guy is going to be able to push Saka for the second half of this season and potentially take this role next season if we decide to go in a new direction as we continue to progress on with Arsenal. So he's got a lot about him. Passing is great. His off the ball is really great. Physicals are excellent, lots of pace, lots of acceleration. He's also got 14 in crossing, 15 in dribbling, flair of 16. So everything you need from a wide right sort of winger, really. And he's right-footed, so we'll play more on the right and stay right rather than cutting in and try and whip those balls into the centre of the penalty box. So there you go. Pacheco comes in down the right-hand side of our midfield. And the last of our three, Julian Alder. And he comes in, 29-year-old Argentinian, probably a little bit of a stopgap for the next season or two, primarily, as a left fullback, 29 years old. He's not a youngster or anything, but he's okay. Best that I could find out there for the money that I wanted to pay, etc. And he's decent enough. Physicals are very good, I think, mostly. I think his mentals have got a couple of gaps, but not really too much. I'd like a little bit of leadership and bravery in there. Other than that, not too bad at all. And then the technicals, he's good as a defensive fullback. We're going to play him on support duty, easy for me to say. So he will get up and down the left-hand side a little bit, but will primarily be more focused on trying to make us defensively more solid. And that's something that I've been looking at a little bit in this January window as well, as to how we can do that. Because as you saw, we've been a little bit inconsistent recently, and we find ourselves outside of the European spots. So it was about time that I tried to do something about it. We currently sit in 8th position in the table. We've been as low as 10th recently. So yeah, just a little bit of a problem there in terms of trying to get into those European spots in the second half of the season and keep them through to the end. That's the intention at this point. So how did we do it? Well, we're going to be playing Newcastle United away from home today. So in preparation for that, let's go find out. So having spent our time recently in the 4-2-3-1 formation, trying to be on the front foot and be a little bit attacking, etc., I felt it was necessary to try and find a way to change that up slightly and become slightly more defensively solid, because we were struggling a little bit. So I've still got the other formation loaded in. If we switch over, you can see it's still there in the custom vertical tiki-taka. But what I've gone to is my drafting tactic. I've been working on this one for a little while, ever since my 4-3-1-2 formation started not to work as well as I'd like in my drafting. I changed to this 4-3-3 formation, been working on it, knocking off rough edges. I called it the desperate times tactic, just because I was looking for something that was going to help me out in my drafting. And I feel it's appropriate to bring it in here, really. Desperate times, got to find a way to get into these European spots, and we need to be slightly more defensively sound. So what we've done is we've dropped Pobega into the holding midfield role, and we brought Bayens back into a central midfield rather than attacking midfield role. Everything else pretty much stays the same in terms of the formation, but the way that it's played is very, very different in terms of how I'm looking to control the ball and work the ball through the lines, etc. A couple of role changes as well, but not too much. And ultimately, I'm just trying to look to be a little bit more solid, really. So that's how we're going to work it for now. We're going to give this time to bed in. What I would say is Alder came in at left fullback last time out, the new left fullback, and got a brilliant goal for me on his debut, which was fantastic in the Brighton match, which we did win 1-0. So he started off brilliantly well. And everybody else is, fit and healthy. But this is the other thing that I said that we would get to in terms of how we are moving this club forward. What you will see is Pobega has a transfer agreed for the end of the season. And so does McNeil. And so does Martinez, Lautaro Martinez, another of our 35-year-olds. So if we go through them, Martinez at 35, McNeil is 33. And Pobega is also 33. These are the types of player I'm now trying to move out of the club and bring some younger, fresher talent in to move this club forward. I think that the club is sitting too much on the shoulders of older players, and we need to move it a little bit. So the likes of Saka, if we go and look at him, he's 31. He's probably got another season or so in him for us. That's no major problem at this point, although if we get a good offer, I'd consider it. And just slowly, we're beginning to freshen the team up and move it forward and change it a little bit in terms of what I'm looking for my own managerial standpoint. So that's what we've done. We've brought new players in, got a few out. We've got a few more leaving at the end of the season. We've got a slightly more solid structure to us in terms of the way that we play. And let's see if that can work for us. So for today's match against Newcastle, who seem to be struggling a little bit. They're down in sort of the 15th, 16th sort of spot in the Premier League, which surprised me a little bit. So we'll see whether they're in the right sort of position or whether they perform better than that today. But for that game against Newcastle in the Premier League, we go with Lafont in goal and Benabid at right back, Auld at left back, excuse me, Lever and Franco in central defence, Pobega, Bayens and Gavi in central midfield, Saka on the right, Arobio on the left and Fasanella up top, and a 9-man bench all ready and raring to get involved should we need them. So let's get into today's game and see what happens. So considering that Newcastle are below us in the league, considering we also got a win against Brighton in the last game that we played, I've pumped the fist and I've basically said I expect a win tonight. It doesn't matter that we're away from home. We've got to start performing and we've got to start picking up these points and moving ourselves up the table back into these European spots. So that's the intention, and we're not going to let the players get away with anything else really at this point. We have to move forward, and this is the way to kind of do it, we hope. So we go in with our slightly new shape of the 4-3-3 in our desperate times tactical setup, and we will see how that works for us. We sit 3 points behind Everton, who are in the last of the European spots, but we do have a game in hand over them just at the moment, so we'll see how that works out for us. So there is room for movement here. We've got to go and perform on the pitch to get it done, though. So let's see how we go. First highlight, 4 minutes in, and it's Newcastle, but we win the ball very well. Gavi picks up the loose ball, and we play down the right-hand side. Saka and Benabid getting involved in the play, drops it into the midfield area. Pobega is kind of going to sit in that quarterback role a little bit and just play the ball a little bit around, and we get a goal. And it's a slightly surprising goal. Even after the shot was taken, I didn't quite know where it was going to go. I thought it was going to go over the top of the bar, to be honest. But there's some good play on this right-hand side. And then there's a good moment here where Benabid spots the run of Bayens, puts it over the back of the defenders, and Bayens gets onto the ball and then just dinks it over the top of the goalkeeper. And it was that concerned me the most. I wasn't sure whether the ball was going to come back down in time to get in the back of the net. And it does. It hits the bottom of the crossbar and falls into the back of the net, which is fantastic for us. 1-0 up after 5 minutes on the clock, which is really great. Hopefully that can settle us down and we can start to play the ball around and frustrate Newcastle a little bit, get them chasing shadows just a little bit and see what that can do for us. And time is flying now through this first half. Since that 5th minute goal, we haven't had a highlight. It's now 35 minutes on the clock. And here is the next highlight. It's a free kick on the halfway line for us from a defensive standpoint. And again, we get Bayens through. And again, this time, he tries to go round the side of the goalkeeper with a shot. And the goalkeeper is up to it and parries it away. But he is working really well in that central midfield attacking role. So we've dropped him deeper, but made him a little bit more focused on getting forward. And it seems to be working out very nicely for him. Very happy with that. Good work at left back from our new guy, Auld. And he manages to head the ball clear. And then, unfortunately, we lose it again. Newcastle go over the top. But again, defensively, much more solid. But our distribution out has let us down for a second time in this particular highlight. We're trying to win the ball back in midfield again quite successfully. But then eventually Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets the chance at the top of the box for Newcastle. And he puts it narrowly wide for them. So a little bit of some good and bad in that. Defensively, I thought we looked pretty solid in a lot of ways. In the midfield, we were trying to harry them and press them and push them for a mistake. But our distribution of the ball, not quite good enough to get us on the counter-attack ourselves. So something for us to work on there. We're going to continue to pump the fist. Things are going well, capable of even better. Get out there and do it. We hold the lead at the moment, but it's quite a narrow lead. And we do need to keep putting the pressure on. So, free kick opportunity early, and it's sent to the far post from a Bayern's free kick and then headed over the top of the bar for us. But a good early start with a good early opportunity just to push Newcastle back a little bit and show that we are ready and raring to go for this second half. And really trying to put the nail in the coffin for them. A little bit slow again, though. 65 minutes coming up, and this is only the second highlight of the second half, and it's a goal for Newcastle. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out for us. It's a corner kick, and the corner goes into that centre of the 6-yard box, and it's a header from Marasso, should I say, and he powers it into the back of the net, and we are caught a little bit out on that one, and we go back to 1-1. It's been a very, very quiet second half, really. Not as many highlights as I was looking for. And here is another one for Newcastle. If they get another goal here early after having scored already, then we might be in a little bit of trouble for this second half of the game. But we'll see how we go. Down the right-hand side, the cross comes in, and they do. And we have to make changes now. And Vlahovic gets on the end of that one and hooks the ball into the back of the net. They've turned it round. For whatever reason, they've come out in this second half much more intent on getting forward and doing their thing. And we have struggled to cope with it quite considerably at the moment. So once the highlight goes, 70th minute on the clock, we're now going to pause the game, get into those tactics and see what we can do about this one. So basically, I'm happy to keep the shape and the style of play just at the moment. We're still working on it. Still improving it all the time. You can see the familiarity of the players isn't quite there yet, but it's all about player performance today. And you can see right and left wing not performing well, 6.4, 6.2, and neither is Fasanella up top, 6.2 as well. So we're going to change those three players, excuse me, and see if that's enough to turn our fortunes round a little bit. So Saka comes out, Pacheco goes in, Arobio comes out, McNeil goes in, and Barry comes in for Fasanella. And we will see what difference that can make. So we're not going to change the style because we're still, as I say, getting used to it. But we will go back into the game and immediately when we can go into the shouts and demand more from them for the last 15-20 minutes of the fixture. So we've had about the same sort of amount of shots at goal and roughly on target as well. Their XG rating is far superior to ours, and the time is ticking by very, very quickly. It doesn't look like we're going to get much out of this last few minutes, unfortunately. Where was that little bit of impetus that I was looking for? Didn't get it. Newcastle have turned it round. We had a decent start. 5 minutes in, we got a very good goal. We had a couple of opportunities after that point. Second half, though, there was something that didn't quite work for us, and Newcastle began to dominate the game. And 65 minutes, they got an equaliser. 71 minutes, they got their potential winning goal, which turned out to be the case. And our attacking third just did not work today, other than Bayern supporting it from central midfield. Very disappointing, but we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt just for now. We were away from home, tricky side, and we are just getting to grips with this new tactical setup. So, onwards to another day, but for now, not really what I was looking for. So, having not taken advantage of the game in hand that we have, we've now dropped a place. Newcastle have jumped over us in the league. We've got a problem now that we are slightly drifting away from a couple of teams above us. I mean, we're 3 points behind Everton still, but we've got a long way to go up from there to Brighton in 6th position. So we've really got to get our skates on if we're going to get anywhere close to that sort of level for the rest of this season. I'm not 100% sure whether this squad have totally got that in them just at the moment. It feels like we need another transfer window just to keep us moving and keep us sort of refreshing ourselves into a new era just a little bit. So, a little bit of a project going on. We'll see what we can do with it, obviously. But for now, just stumbling a little bit. We are just in the last couple of days of the January transfer window. I'm not sure that there'll be any more deals happening for us before the end of it, but we will have to wait and see. Who knows? What have we got coming up, though? We've got coming up a couple of big things. We play Paris Saint-Germain in the first knockout stage of the Champions League, so that's going to be challenging in itself. We'll see what happens. Our home leg is the first one, unfortunately. You usually try and get home leg for the second game, but we'll have to cope with that one. So that's coming up. We've also got an FA Cup fourth round tie against Wrexham. That should be winnable. A chance for me to rotate my starting lineup a little bit and keep everybody fresh. And then in the league, we've got the likes of Liverpool, Brentford, Sheffield United, Everton, etc. coming up. And what we're going to come back and do is play that Everton fixture at the start of March. So between now and then, Wrexham, Liverpool, PSG, Brentford and Sheffield United, we play in 3 different competitions. We'll come back and play the Everton game. I'll catch you up on everything that's going on. And just before we head over to Paris to see what we get in the Champions League second leg of that game, we'll play the Everton home game in the Premier League. So that's the plan. It's going to be tricky for the rest of the season. Can we get into Europe? There's a question to ask of, do we want to get into Europe? Only in the sense of next season, if we're not, will that help us to make more strides forward in the Premier League potentially, if we can have another good transfer window and bring some fresh young talent in that's hungry and can move the club forward? I don't know what the answer to that one is. Let me know in the comments below. Would you want European competition at this point, or would you want to kind of avoid it and focus yourself domestically to see if you can improve that as we move the club forward? So let me know that in the chat below, and I will read through those before the start of the next episode. Until then, thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Not the result I was looking for, but nonetheless, we keep making strides and moving the club forward. This time it was more in transfers than anything else. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and join my United City community. The more the merrier. Click that like button on this particular episode. That will help me get seen by more people. Until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.